session. It's good to have a crowd here again. It's great to have Gary Bateman here. A little bit about Gary. So Gary's worked in India. He was the CEO of a huge manufacturing business, and he knew all about a great place to work, but was looking for something that was more transformational. So once he left his employee in India, he signed on and took on the directorship of an even better place to work in India. So we welcome him, and we've been working closely with him as he's growing his market out in India. He's committed to ethical leadership and delivering measurable business results. So he really speaks our language, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say today. So Gary, if you're ready, you can take it away.
Thank you. Let me just, hopefully technology does not let me down, and I can share quite comfortably the screen. Hopefully, are you able to see my screen?
All good.
Good, excellent. So I'm going to talk about thriving in the new hybrid era. And this is something I've put together. So what is thriving in the hybrid era? So it's a range of workshops that I've put together that focuses on educating executives, imparting the right required skills and competencies to managers and teams, and also co-creates optimal hybrid work environments. So why did I start this range of workshops? Well, first, there were three reasons. One, it addresses a current issue in the corporate environment, which is something I wanted to do. Also, as I've started working with a Better Place to Work, I needed to find an entrance into the market to take the broader offering to market. And the reason I chose this, besides it being a current issue in the corporate environment that I could address, it is a subject that I could talk to based on personal experience. And that experience comes from a couple of different areas. Firstly, during COVID, I had just assumed a new managing director role. Brian referenced the role I had in India. Now, I had just assumed the managing director role. And in fact, on I think it was the 23rd of March, 2020, I had my suitcases packed and I was ready to go to the airport for my flight to India. The flight left South Africa at 10 p.m. on the Friday night, which was 1:30 Saturday morning Indian time. And lo and behold, at midnight Indian time that night, they shut the borders because of COVID. So for 1 year, I ran a company with more than 100 million euro company in India, remotely based in South Africa. So that required me to onboard myself as the new managing director. My predecessor had already left. So for 1 year, I worked remotely. Also, when I finally moved to India, I had an 850 strong team that was in office, remote, hybrid, spread across 5 manufacturing facilities in 3 countries. And I had a lot to learn. What I did realize when I sat in reflection is everything that happened to me working remotely or managing the company had happened by default or was in reaction to some incident that had taken place. And looking back, I realized that nothing we had in place for hybrid work was done intentionally. Everything was simply by default. And because it was by default, there were many things that did not work or had to be changed. So when I got back to South Africa now, and I was starting to look around opportunities where I can address challenges, etc., and I identified hybrid work as one issue that I could bring solutions to the table. And I started off wanting to create a bit of a, let's call it a provocative premise. And I wrote a couple of articles. The future of work isn't hybrid, it's intentionality. And there's a specific reason behind that, and it comes through in terms of the workshop and the next couple of slides. And the reason I say that is for many companies, when you talk to somebody about hybrid work, they simply say, well, yeah, we let our team work from home a couple of days a week. And that is very much operating in the default setting. Meetings happen in person. Why? Because they always have. People are in the office. That's great. Whether they're productive or not doesn't really count. Long hours are rewarded rather than meaningful outcomes. So everything is by default, without real thought behind it. So these workshops address the required mind shift changes that need to take place if you're going to have a successful hybrid work environment. One, leadership must change the mind from tracking attendance to driving performance. Meetings and team connection need to happen by design and not simply by default. Company culture can't be left to chance. The culture building blocks have to be embedded in the operating system. Office environment will never be obsolete, but a person's physical presence should be purposeful and should only take place when it adds value. And the strategic question behind this isn't where people work, but rather why, when, and how they work. And leadership mindset needs to shift from legacy default to conscious design. And this mindset of remote versus in-person, flexibility versus accountability, productivity versus culture, all that is changing in the way people are looking at work environments. So I put together 3 levels of workshop. Firstly, the hybrid era executive edge. This is focused at executive management and senior management. It's an hour and a half long. It's more educational and informational to executives. The second level workshop is the leadership advantage. This is aimed more at managers, team leaders, and this brings to the workshop a more of a participative workshop. It focuses on addressing some theoretical issues as well as bringing more of the skills that managers need to manage in the hybrid era. I'll touch on that a bit more. And then the third workshop is the hybrid era wellbeing playbook. This is a much more in-depth workshop that focuses on team leaders and team members. And I'll go into more detail about what these workshops actually include. But before doing that, why is a hybrid work environment real important for companies to look at? Firstly, a Stanford study actually showed that hybrid teams are 62% more productive than office-bound teams. Hybrid teams have a 33% lower turnover than their in-office counterparts. They are 30% more engaged than in-office teams. When hybrid and remote teams were asked, do they feel that they are thriving in their job? Hybrid teams, 62% versus 50% in office. And with culture, hybrid remote teams tend to view company culture more positively than the office-bound teams. So there's definite advantages and benefits to hybrid work. And I use hybrid maybe a little bit loosely to cover both hybrid and remote versus in office. So the benefits are definitely there, but the benefits are not realized if companies do not put some sort of effort into building a very definite and intentional work environment. So the workshops have four components to it. There's a theoretical component. There are workshop exercises, facilitated activities, and a workbook. Now, this doesn't apply to all the workshops. The more in-depth the workshops go, the more of this is incorporated in the workshop. So when I look at the theoretical component, what does this include? Well, it includes the first area I've addressed is why hybrid needs structure. So I take the team through the development of hybrid workplaces, look at myths, common myths versus reality, look at the challenges of a hybrid work environment. Sorry, can you just excuse me for 1 second? Something's just gone wrong this side.
Gary's left the building.
Sorry, I'm just trying to fix something up this side.
I must say the statistics on
Okay.
hybrid work are really valuable.
Sorry. Back again. So under hybrid need structure, the key challenges that are faced in hybrid environments, that looking at communication gaps, burnout, fairness in the workplace, how visible are remote employees versus in-office employees. So those kind of things are discussed, as well as strategic opportunities that a hybrid workplace brings, and how companies can leverage those strategic opportunities. Then looking at the foundations of a strong hybrid work policy, the core elements of who, when, and how. Who should be eligible, what kind of remote environment needs to be created, are specific employees suitable to working remotely versus in office, compliance to, for example, data security policies, legal compliance, looking at that. And also, looking at setting expectations in terms of people's availability, responsiveness, and outcomes. Addressing trust and team culture, how to build trust in distributed teams, the communication norms, developing meeting rhythms and cadences, and how to manage performance and outcomes in a remote or hybrid environment. Looking at digital tools and hybrid collaboration. So just taking the teams through the kind of collaboration platforms that are out there, tools for project and task management, tools for documentation and knowledge management, and integration and automation. So providing some alternatives and the kind of tools and applications and platforms that are available to build this hybrid environment. Understanding the hybrid stresses, things such as isolation, blurred boundaries, poor balance between work and personal life, digital fatigue, and looking at presenteeism, and making and really trying to offer some offer some skills and competencies, training the management team to be able to understand and address these stresses and to spot them early on in their team. Looking at well-being foundations, looking at the different energy zones, looking at boundaries versus burnout, and offering some tools and advice in terms of recovery rituals, routines, how to manage breaks, micro breaks, to make sure that the mental well-being of the team is paramount. And then focusing on leading with empathy in a hybrid world, really driving down and helping deliver skills to the management team, so that the management or the team leaders understand psychological safety and team mental health, spotting early signs of stress, of anxiety, and disengagement in the team, how to have supportive one-on-one conversations with team, and balancing empathy and performance. And then building a wellness or well-being action plan, both individually, helping the team create good habits and boundaries in their workplace, and also looking at the team as a whole, developing something such as a shared well-being charter. So this is the theoretical component, and there are other aspects as well, but this is really some of the theoretical components that the workshop includes. Excuse me now. And then there are the workshop exercises that are incorporated amongst in between the theoretical component, things such as group polls, what's working, what's not working out, small breakout sessions to define a hybrid team charter, group work, drafting the hybrid work policy, brainstorming sessions, what's challenging to mental well-being in the hybrid work environment, developing a personal well-being map, some role play, having hard but human conversations, and then group activities, designing sort of the team rhythm and cadence to support the mental health, and then facilitated activities, rewriting the work rulebook. In that, it's really creating and drafting a very good hybrid work policy. The tough conversation guide, having the conversations between manager and team, or team leader and team, the issues that need to be addressed, how to address it, balancing the outcome delivery versus empathy. And then what I have brought, and this is where it plays into the better place to work part, in the longer playbook workshop. What I've offered now hasn't been taken up yet, but really is diagnostic assessments and the outcome debrief. So that's looking at the remote leadership and the remote workplace diagnostics. So there has been some interest in that, but nobody has yet signed up. So hopefully that's coming soon. So that's the facilitated activities in the workshop. And then with the workshop, there's a workbook. Now, I'm not going to read through this, but really this is the different templates and checklists and forms that's included in a workbook that supports the workshop in building the hybrid workplace. So what has been my go-to-market approach? So for this workshop at this stage, I've focused on the Western Cape, and I've looked at medium to large companies based in the Western Cape, and there's been some really good response. The market approach has been a marketing and PR plan, social media, industry and business publications, leveraging my network for direct connection, and then cold contact as well. And I find it very difficult, cold contact. I'm comfortable with people I know, but making cold contact for me is pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. But it's been some really interesting response, and particularly I wrote an article which was published in a couple of publications, which I entitled, I think at the beginning of the year, "Hybrid is not the future; it's intentionality." And it's actually been picked up in media with some interest. And I was invited onto Cape Town TV business segment to discuss the workshops and hybrid work. Voice of the Cape leadership perspective, I was on that. Aldo's radio station in Soweto, I was on that. And actually, the reason I was almost late was I was actually recording a session on Hot FM Business with Jeremy Maggs. So there's been some interest, some interesting response to that, and this has driven the workshop. So what I have done with the workshops, I have a 30-minute free introductory presentation, which I've given, and I've had some feedback on that, and sent out some quotes for workshops, and expecting in the next week or so to get some positive response on that. So that's what I've been working on in terms of the hybrid workshops. And thank you for listening. And yeah, not too big a group, but any comments, thoughts, and questions on this?
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Gary. It's a really, I loved that beginning with working by default instead of intentionality. Um, because it is about being intentional. And I think that might be why you get those amazing stats that have come out where people do work a little bit harder and longer hours at home because you feel you have to, or you're able to because you're in a more comfortable setting or whatever is working for you. So I think those are really interesting statistics.
I think the downside, and I agree with you, the productivity is definitely up because people are in the off in at their workspace more often. But there's the downside to that. You get the blurred boundaries between personal and business. You get the burnout. You get the fatigue, and it's key that managers of hybrid teams or remote teams are very aware of that, and that they are continually checking in with their team in terms of the mental well-being of the team, and are able and have the skills to spot any issues very early.
Yeah.
Are the individuals that are showing heightened stress? Is there anxiety? Is there disengagement? Is there burnout? They need to spot that very, very early. And also they need to have the processes, the skills, and some of the tools that can ensure that doesn't happen. So the employees are given tools themselves to be able to manage their recovery. Having breaks at the right time. Ensuring that they set themselves very clear boundaries between work and personal, and that they put in place good habits. They build good habits in terms of work, because the key thing to me is that we need to get away, or companies to get away from the mindset that a hybrid work environment is work from home. It's not work from home. It's actually building a very structured virtual office structure. And the key there is structure, so that you can have those boundaries and don't slip into the default of I work from home 24 hours a day. I'm always on call. No, there's got to be those boundaries in place.
I don't know if you've looked at all the diagnostics, but we have one that's remote at work. Would that support you? And maybe would it support I did ask the question in the chat, but how the platform can support rewriting the workbook? Would those sort of taking that kind of diagnostic in the beginning, then getting to know what's working for people while they're working, and then would that data not help to do that part of your workshop?
So in the third workshop, the in-depth playbook workshop, I have offered those two diagnostic tools: remote leadership and remote work. Because I agree 100%. The key that critical to being successful is you need to have your benchmark, and then be able to rerun those diagnostics maybe after 3 and 6 months, so that you can determine the improvement and change over time. So those two diagnostics are included in the extended workshop.
That's great. I see Mercy put into the chat, very interesting, and love the intentionality of recognizing and addressing how the workplace has transformed since COVID. Amazing progress, Gary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This has really, really been interesting. Wow. Thank you. Such a different angle.
So I can't see that for some reason. I've tried to put up the chat, but it's not opening up for me.
Very interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Just to look at the activities, there's a lot of activities, probably about 80% of that is focused around routines as well. So you might want to have a look at that to add.
So sorry, Brian, it broke up there. I didn't get the full comment.
I say the activities.
Yeah, you're breaking
there's a
up,
lot of
Brian.
activities. Am I breaking up?
Yeah.
What he was saying, Gary, was if you look at the activities, they're set up for those that are working remotely, and that might help you as well, to add into your in person or your they're all online kind of based. They might help too. You might have researched them too.
Yeah, thanks. Yes.
But great session. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Gary?
Not so much questions, or as observations. I too like the default working against intentionality. I think intentionality is one of my prime messages. But I also liked, and I would like to try and enhance, if Gary can help us, the tracking attendance. I think most managers fall into that category without, even ourselves realizing that. So I think that's quite a powerful message, albeit just in sort of a couple of words, really. And I'm going to try and use that to engage people. Are you just tracking the attendance, or are you driving your performance of your people? It's quite this thing.
Yeah, that's a key one, and it comes with trust. Yeah, I think the key thing is to get the team to build trust, the manager to build trust in the team, so that it's not measuring attendance, it's actually driving performance. It's something I've always tried to do when running a company or managing a team. It's saying very clear to the team. And I don't care if you sit in the office from 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. That means nothing to me if you're not delivering on your outcomes. Everybody, you've got your KPIs. If your KPIs are delivered, you can spend 1 hour in the office, you can work from home, you can work from the coffee shop. I don't care. What's important is that the outcomes meet the KPIs, the expectations. If that's met, but it comes with trust.
Yeah, sound.
Anybody else? Any questions or insights for Gary? That was quite a career success for you, Gary, running a company in India from South Africa. That I can't even imagine what that would be like.
It was an incredible learning experience, and it's when I sit back now. At the time, I just did it, and also when I got to India, ran the company, just did it. But when I sit back now, and when I started putting this workshop together, and I look back and say, okay, what did I learn? If I could do it over, it could be 10 times better, because everything was by default or reactionary. It wasn't proactive and planned. And just managing a team of 850 people that are remote or hybrid, there's so much more I could have put in place that would have made such a big difference to the people. And I regret that now, because it's only now when I sit back and reflect and read and really give it some thought, I realize that there's a lot of things I actually missed. And I believe that's what I can bring through the workshop to companies now.
Well, you're talking from a strong experience of what's right, what's wrong, and then now how to be intentional. You were intentional by default, actually. During the year, you had to be.
To an extent, but I fell into the traps. India is 3.5 hours ahead of us. I was starting to work at 5:36 in the morning. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they were gone. I was still sitting at my desk. So I ended up getting fatigue, burnout, blurring every personal, no work-life balance. I fell into all those traps. So I can actually look back now and say, be careful of those, because you can work 12 hours a day only so long, and then your productivity is gone. You're just sitting staring at a screen doing nothing.
Absolutely. Well done. And thank you for this. This has been really, really insightful. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. It has been. And then we've got our next session on the 30th of September with Brian, who's going to do our next session with the playbook. So we look forward to that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.